Hey guys, how is it going? Welcome to my backyard tent garage. And I just want to ask one thing before we continue. Have you hugged your pet today? If not, you certainly should. What are we doing today? Well, you recognize this car. This is the Eternal Project car that sits back here with sometimes the wheels on, sometimes the wheels off. I'll get to that in a minute. But it sits back here a lot and I tinker around with it, and eventually one of these days I may actually threaten to drive this car somewhere, but we'll see. But anyway, what I'm doing today is I have got the interior partially out of this car, and by partially I mean that I've got the seats and the carpet out of it and the console, and that's all I'm taking out of it. And I'm doing that because the carpet was old and it was a cheap replacement that was coming apart, and the seats, front seats, definitely need to be reupholstered. So we've got some work to do on that stuff there, but in the meantime I want to go through and take a look at these floors and do something to seal them before I put new carpet back in. So let's take a look in here what we're dealing with. Now, first of all, it's just about all good news. This car does not have rotten floorboards. This is good. A lot of these cars have front floorboards that rot out over time because at these cars the wiper seals leak and the windshield gasket leaks and some other stuff. Basically anything that can find a way to leak water in the interior, these will do it. So this one survived well. It's got some surface rust on it, but that's it. Got good solid floors all the way front to rear. You can see it had some fairly good amount of surface rust back here that probably in another few years might have resulted in a hole, but there's not even so much as a pinhole in these floors now, so that's great news. You can see over there, just surface rust. So you can't technically say they're rust free because they have surface rust, but they are very, very solid, so that's good. This I don't know if I ever really told where this car came from, but this was a Texas dry Southwest car from Texas. Spent most of its life around East Central Texas, I guess, and then probably for the last 15 or 20 years it spent, before I got it, it spent sitting in a field somewhere. So, but it survived well, so no rust issues. So what we're going to do is you can see I've been sanding on this floor to knock down any loose rust. I'm not trying to remove all the rust. That's just about going to be impossible. So I've knocked down everything that's going to come off, and then I'm going to clean it again. I'm going to wipe it down, and then I'm going to coat this floor pan with Bedliner. And let's talk about why we want to use Bedliner. I know you might be saying to yourself, well, is Bedliner not supposed to go on bed lining? Yes, it is, but Bedliner material is usually, if you get the right variety of it, you don't go real cheap on it. It's a real tough coating, and the main consideration in this is not so much the tough part of it, but the fact that it's, if applied properly, it's waterproof. And that's where people tend to screw up sometimes. People that are amateurs at working on old cars and stuff, they tend to screw up because they go back in here with something that's not waterproof. They'll say, well, I've got this sanded down, now I'm going to just paint it, or now I'm going to prime it. Well, paint is okay. Paint is okay until it starts breaking down and then you get rust. Paint will emit water and moisture. See, this car's had the paint baked off the top of it. And the problem with primer is when you hop in your ride and head over to AutoZone or Walmart or someplace like that, and you pick up one of those cheap 98-cent or $1.99 cans of primer, or however many you want to use, and prime the floor down, say I'm going to prime it down. Well, that ain't going to work for you, because that primer is not waterproof. It emits moisture through that primer. It doesn't matter how many coats of it you put on it. That's why you can see somebody that, they'll buy an old car, truck, or something like that, and the first thing they do is they're convinced that they've got a sand down or at least cover up all the old paint. And so they prime it down with a rattle can gray primer, and then they leave it because most people that do that don't have the money to keep on fixing it up. And a year or two down the road, that thing's rusting away again, and that's because that primer is the wrong kind of primer. And they have something called Epoxy Primer, which is supposedly better at preventing moisture intrusion, but I've never used it. I can't vouch for it. But the Bedliner should do the trick. So even if this thing, you know, does still pass a little bit of incremental amount of water here and there, it tries to stay. I try to keep it covered up most of the time, but even if it does, it's just gonna, if nothing else, it'll just make the carpet musty, and that's it. It's not gonna rust these floors out because it's just, you know, you guys probably remember seeing that 73 when I was working on that green one Uncle Phil has now. You know, the floors were just gone in that car. I mean, gone. So, and you know, you're talking about working on this car. That's one thing. That's one good thing about getting older is your patience increases when you get older. So, I've been able to kind of, you know, not rush through things on this car and do it the right way, and you know, take my time and do, just like I said, do things the right way, because when you're young, you know, you want to do it right now. I want to do it right now. So if I was 20 years old, I'd probably come out here and I'm going to go get some red paint, and I'm just going to cover this down red paint and throw some carpet back in. That's it. And it would look like crap and be like crap. So now, this is the kind of Bedliner kit that I used here. Trying to keep the name off it so YouTube doesn't have a fit, but you know what kind that is. And I got this is a whole kit. It's got a gallon of Bedliner in it. It's got 2 rollers on the handle and a scuff pad. And I went and got that sandpaper. I ran out of 80 grit sandpapers. I had to go get some more. And then I've got one of those little small trays to use with it too. So that kit is supposed to do a 6-foot bed, and this, from where I'm going to start at back to as far back as I can get, it's not quite 6 foot. That's probably right at about, I'd say back there's probably about 5, and it's not quite as wide. Close to it, but maybe not quite. So we'll see. If I have to go get some more, I will. And that kit cost me $89 for that kit. So, and anyway, back here at the back, you know, you can see some more surface rust, but right here you see what this material is. That's the factory seam sealer, and it's kind of, I'm not going to try to peel that off, but it kind of, you hit it too hard and that stuff kind of flakes off. So we need to go back over that with something like, you know what, we could use that Bedliner and go back over it. And I'm probably not going to go that far up. I'm probably just going to get to where the floor pan starts back up right there, and I'm going to cut it off right there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean it again, and then I'm going to use my painter's masking tape, and I'm going to professionally mask off some things to create a start-stop line. You'll see what I mean when I do it. But I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to get going on it. This car's never been restored. It's all the original interior in it. The only thing that was different was the carpet. And it had that cheap old, it's almost as bad as that stuff you can get at AutoZone. That stuff that's like, they call it cut pile. It's like what newer cars have in, but this car is not supposed to have cut pile. It's supposed to have 80/20 loop in it. But original door panels and original headliner. And you talk about pricey if you have to replace this friggin' headliner. And all the panels are good shape. Still got the original panel for the back there. So, you know, and it's not perfect. There's things that are showing some age, but we don't worry about it. I'm probably going to redo at least the 2 front seats and put new carpet in it and clean, and polish my chrome and get the rust off some of the chrome and stuff. And that's it for right now. Hey, ladybug, what you doing? So, alright guys, that's my project that I'm going to embark upon. And neighbor's got the radio going again, so you know it's warm weather. Oh yeah, what's going on with the wheels? Well, here's the thing. It's one of these deals where I had to go back and punt. I had to fall back and punt on the wheels. You remember I had the rally wheels on it, and I had bought 2 used 15-inch rally wheels and 2 new ones, and put them all on here, put tires for them. And I bought smaller tires. I think the fronts had 2 15-60 15s, and the backs had 2 55-60 15s. And you know, without rambling too much, that was the effect of one of those deals where you try to research online about what sizes are the best to use for things like this as far as looks and fitment, and you get 15 different answers from 15 different people. So I just took a shot in the dark, and the problem was the fronts looked good, but the backs looked too tall, and there were those wheels had too much or not enough offset. So the offset, not enough offset, means that the rim part as opposed to the center part was too far in, and they tried to hit my springs back there. So no bueno. I didn't like the way they looked. I just didn't like the small and big look on here. So here's what's going on with it. I have acquired a set of 14-inch rallies, which I've restored those, repainted them, fixed them up. Got the trim rings, and I'm just working on restoring the center cap. So I'm going to put all the factory size 14-inch rallies and trim rings and white leather tires on it. I just think that's a more period correct look for this thing. So, and I know some people, you know, I've already gotten that from some other people. Oh, well, you want to go from 15s to 14s? Cause it's my car and I like the way it looks with 14s, and I want to do that. You know, and you know, this is the funny thing about the 15s, and I'll shut this off and get busy. I'll talk all day, but the 15s I took off there. You know, you ever get on one of these forums? That's another one of these situations where the BS that you read on forums does not equate to reality, because everybody's looking for 15-inch rally wheels. Oh, I need 15-inch rally wheels. I want 15-inch large bolt pattern rally wheels. Well, that's exactly what I took off this car to sell, and it took me nearly 2 months to sell those wheels for even half of what I had invested in new tires and the wheels. You know, and it's another one of those things where it takes forever to sell, and you can't get what they're really worth. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, where does this come from? People there that, well, I just need them, but they won't fork over the cash for it. This guy texted me one day about them, and he tried to get me to take those wheels and put them in the car and drive 60 miles up north of here to meet him so he could look at them. And I told him, I said, I'm not doing that, man. He said, well, yeah, I'll come a little closer. And I said, that's not the deal. I said, what's going to happen if I get up there and you don't like it? He said, well, if they're what you say they are, I'll buy them. And, you know, I thought to myself, yeah, I've heard that shit before. I don't take anything to deliver anything for people to buy anywhere. So, needless to say, I didn't meet him, and he texted me yesterday and asked me if I still had them for sale. And I said, no, man, don't have them for sale. I've already sold them. And it was all I could do to not text this guy back and say, you know what, if you got your lazy butt out there and drove another 50 or 60 miles, you would have had them. But no, you tried to be a cheapskate, and now you're doing without, so too bad. All right, guys, well, man, I'm tripping over everything. I ran over that stub over there with the lawnmower yesterday. Oh, here's a quick little tidbit. You see why this filter's out here in the yard? It's a crushed up mix filter, and why is it still kind of halfway implanted in the yard? Well, that was the one that fought me tooth and nail to come off that engine over there when I was having to rework that oil filter adapter. Every time I've had to take the oil filter off that car, it's stuck on there like glue. So that was the end result of that. I finally won over that son of a gun, and when I got out here, I crushed it as hard as I could with a hammer over there, and then I'd come over here and stomped it into the ground. So I've left it here as an example, so the next time that I go to take the oil filter off that car, maybe that one will see this one dead out here in the yard, and it will understand that it does not need to screw with me on this. And you know I'm not serious about that, I hope. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.